have to be filled with a lot of anxiety, and it doesn't have to be something which doesn't close in a good note. Everybody leaves organization, everybody joins organization, and it's a pretty normal thing. What we're going to be talking about is what are some of the rights and duties that we have and how we can make this process a pretty smooth one. To start with, the most important thing that you need to do when you have chosen to move on to a different organization is submit a written resignation. Yes, we do say that it is important for me to talk to my supervisor before I resign, because we feel otherwise the relationship between me and my supervisor will get tampered with. Yet it makes sense to drop in a one-liner to the supervisor saying that I would like to resign and I'm happy to have a discussion. When you send an email like this, your days to start leaving the organization start. Contrary to when your managers have had a discussion on retaining you, they have tried to convince you, and then the official date starts. That's the difference between sending an email and having discussions and then resigning, because all this while, till the time you did not send a formal email, the process and the days calculation doesn't start, which is why it is important to send an email. You may officially resign in the system if your company has an ERP system post your discussions, but you need to resign by sending an email. The other thing that you need to remember is that every organization has a very simple and is almost a standard clause for leaving the company. It says that you can leave the company by giving the company a notice of X months, or you can pay money in lieu thereof, which practically means that you can stop coming to office from the day you decide by paying the money, and legally speaking, nobody can do anything about it. However, professional etiquettes demand that we would like to give the organization enough notice so that they do not have adverse impact on the projects and the tasks that you are handling. It does not mean that you have to wait till the time a replacement joins or till the time your managers decide the last working day. The exit has to be a respectful way of letting you go on your terms, not on the terms of the manager or the terms of the organization. It was an arrangement made between the company and the employee to work together, and if the employee is leaving, then it has to be with the employee's terms also. As an employee, there are a couple of things that you need to be sure of. One, that you need to make sure that you have resigned and you have a copy of the resignation letter with you. You need to make sure that the exit clearance process is done appropriately, which means you go, you return whatever assets you had, whatever paperwork you have, whatever IP you have to the respective people, and you close all those points, post which you work towards joining any organization that you feel like. Another thing that you need to be aware of is whichever company you are joining is a decision that you take. A lot of times, a lot of discomfort is put on the employee because they choose to join a competitor. Unless your contract says, which you have signed as accepted, a named company which you cannot join once you leave this existing company, you cannot be forbidden from joining any other company. Joining any company is a decision taken by the employees. Companies cannot take that decision. They cannot debar you from joining. A lot of companies classifying them as competitors, unless you have signed their names in the contract letter that these are the companies I cannot join. So there's nothing to worry about. If you haven't signed anything, join any company that you please at your free will. What you have to be careful about in terms of documentation when joining a new company, and to ensure that as time progresses during various jobs that you take over a period of 20-30 years, you have to ensure that you carry on maintaining documents, simple documents like the appointment letters, the increment letters of each of the companies. You have to ensure that you keep the resignation letters with you. A lot of companies will issue you relieving letters. Relieving letter is nothing but a simple document which says that yes, everything that the employee had to give us has given us, and we are happy to let him go. That's about it. If you have a relieving letter, then the resignation letter is not required. If you don't have a relieving letter, then a resignation letter is required. If you do find that any of your company is going to be causing problems in terms of relieving letters or giving an adverse feedback on you during the background checks, it makes sense for you to inform your new employer that this company will cause me issues, and here are the documents I have supporting my stance. If you follow these processes, if you follow the documentation, remember, every employee is entitled to a respectful exit and there is no reason why you should not be asking for that when you are leaving an organization. The essential documentation required when exiting an organization is coming down to the basics of about 2 to 3 documents. One of the documents that you require is called the relieving letter. An organization will normally issue that to you in about 30 to 60 days time. If for some reasons they are not issuing it to you, you can send them reminders to escalate it to their supervisor, to the skip level supervisor. If it doesn't happen, then a resignation letter is good enough for that you had resigned. That is good enough. They would send you a full and final settlement working sheet. That itself is good enough for that. The other thing that you need to be aware of is your provident fund number. Now the organization doesn't really need to do anything in the PF or your retirements. Only thing that they need to do is to give that number, which legally would already be told to you either on your payslip or in some communication from the department. This is something that you need to work with your new employer. New employer will themselves work with the previous employer to sort it out. The other thing you require is a Form 16 or any form which gives your income tax related information. No matter what you have done, even if you have absconded, this document cannot be withheld, and nobody can trouble you for issuing this document. The organization will give this to you in the month of May, June. However, if for some reasons they do not, you can send a reminder to them, failure to which you can report it to the income tax department, and the organization will be very happy to give that to you on an urgent basis. The last and the most important thing that you require in this whole exercise is a very clear exit clearance, because the organization should not tomorrow come up and say that you have absconded. That is fine. If you have not absconded, you have resigned, you can prove it that you have not absconded. But if they come back saying you have absconded with company's assets or information, that becomes something which is very difficult for an individual to manage, which is why it is important for you to ensure that your entire exit clearance happens properly and you hand over to somebody. Once you've handed over, you will get some kind of a acknowledgement. Take a copy of that acknowledgement, the exit clearance happened. A company will normally inform you in the next 10 to 15 days if exit clearance is pending. If this documentation is complete, you really don't need to worry about anything else. Just ensure your appointment letters, your increment letters, your salary slips, you have copies of those with you to prove that you worked with the company till a particular date. This documentation really come in handy as you move up the career ladder over the years. Best wishes, and I do hope that you keep enjoying listening to these.